Today I'm going to be taking a look at yet another show that I have never seen before, Kevin Spencer. Now I honestly have no idea what the show is even remotely about, but I do know that it's a unhinged Canadian TV show that went on for 8 seasons, and it seems to be pretty popular. There's just one problem with that though. Anytime a lot of people were suggesting this to me, they kind of were saying it like very ominous, like, Kevin Spencer? Something's wrong with that kid. It's always like they were in some kind of panic state, like just mentioning Kevin Spencer was something dangerous, something to be afraid of. It's like they just got a text message from Dan Schneider about sending feet pics. It's very terrifying, and you don't know what to do. It's just something you can never really prepare for. So, to say the least, I'm excited to see what Kevin Spencer is all about, to see if it's a good show, if it's a bad show, if it's mediocre, if it's hilarious. That's what we're going to be trying to figure out today. And if you like content just like this, please make sure to like and subscribe. I upload every single day. You don't want to miss it. We're on that road to 50K. If the content here on YouTube just isn't enough for you, bonus content on Patreon. And if you want to talk about games, movies, and shows with like-minded people, my Discord will also be in the description. Now let's finally take a look at Kevin Spencer. Taking a look at one of the best episodes in the series, we have the episode Life Lessons. And honestly, I kind of get why whenever I would like talk about Kevin Spencer, the potential of making a Kevin Spencer video, people would like curl their toes, they would like get super scared, they would run over and grip their Judy Hopps body pillow and just have her whisper to them, it's gonna be alright, because yeah, this kid is a little bit of a fucking sociopath. Honestly, Kevin Spencer is basically like if Bart Simpson reacted to his environment the way he was supposed to, becoming a little bit mentally ill, you know? Think about it, like Homer's all like, Marge, I'm gonna choke my son, Marge. You know, I don't got the best Homer impression, but either way, that's what he does. He chokes his son. His son's a little bit of a fuck up, and I guarantee you, if Bart was in more of a real world scenario where he has a very alcoholic father who's not around very much, and when he is around, he just gives him a good old, why you little, then Bart would probably turn into a character just like Kevin Spencer. He's a sociopath. He likes drinking, he likes smoking, and he does whatever he possibly wants to benefit himself. And it just gets so weird so fast, with the episode opening with Kevin going to a dentist's office for just, you know, a normal dental checkup. You know, you gotta get your teeth checked out. You gotta make them look good, look fancy, look sexy, whiten them. Everything you could possibly need to have a beautiful smile, you know, something good for you. And he gets in there and he sees the nurse. Kevin is probably 9 years old. I think he's in 5th grade and he had to redo it a few times. So maybe like 9, 10, 11, 12, one of those ages. And he takes one look at this very adult, you know, dental woman, and he starts thinking, oh, I'm gonna marry that bitch. I'm gonna marry her real good. He's just constantly thinking about how he could seduce her, which was a little bit off-putting for my introduction to Kevin, but oh man, it just got so much worse so fast, where the nurse lady leaves for 1 second, and then Kevin just has a urge deep inside of him to touch and steal things. So he just starts playing with everything, stealing everything that he possibly can. Well, this like conniving evil duck inside of his head is like, oh, Kevin, please, you must steal more things for me, Kevin. You must. What's the silly wait for it? And I don't really know if he has schizophrenia, but either way, he's very mentally ill, where he has a entire, like, world of delusions inside of his head that convinces him that he needs to do very bad things in the world. It's very odd. He has very awful audio and visual hallucinations that is a bit off-putting to normal people. The nurse lady with the big bazungas even walks back in and she's all like, oh, Kevin, oh, you need to be a good boy, Kevin, oh. And, you know, you'd think he'd straighten up because he wants to get with that nurse lady, but the conniving evil duck tells him that he needs to go over there and try that laughing gas. So the ducks inside of their head, it's not just stealing, it's not just, you know, breaking things, it's about doing drugs. He wants him to be puffing on that laughing gas. And he doesn't even initially get convinced by the duck, so I was like thinking, okay, Kevin has some restraint. He has some lines he will not cross, especially when there's a banging hot nurse that he's trying to get with. He has his limits that he's not willing to go over. But then there's just another hallucination, which is just a child, and the child is literally like, oh, please, Kevin, please, go and get the laughing gas, please. glasses? And of course, he can't possibly refuse that.
Please, Kevin, go try on the mask for me. Please.
So Kevin goes and just starts inhaling on that shit, puffing on it, and the entire, like, series, or episode at least, has a narrator, and it's always so fun when the narrator is just talking to me, because he's like, oh yes, so Kevin started puffing on that good old-fashioned nitrous gas, and because he was a sociopath, he didn't even feel any emotions, didn't even crack a single smile.
The gas made Kevin feel real lightheaded, but because he was a sociopath who was born without the ability to feel emotion, Kevin didn't even break a smile.
And I'm like, well, then what's the point of puffing on laughing gas? I don't know. Either way, it's very silly, very funny. This was probably the best part of the episode, just all of this dentist shenanigans, and maybe it was because I was getting introduced to the world of Kevin Spencer. Everything after this kind of, like, dipped off for me, but it's very odd still in the least. So eventually, the dentist walks in and he's very angry, and I do really love what he says here. Like, just, it's so on brand for a dentist. If you went into a dentist's office, what would he say to you? You know what, bro? If you're gonna play with my laughing gas, then you can rot in hell with all the other non-flossers. It feels like an ethical dilemma. Like, do you think the dentist, like, walks around and, like, can just, you know, with his big old nose, just like, oh, I could tell you don't floss, and then he, like, gets racist on him? I don't know, that's just my guess. Like, I can imagine this dentist guy isn't a good man if he's saying the non-flossers. Sounds like he's gonna form an uprising and just try to kill everybody who doesn't start flossing. Either way, that happens, and then we just get to some more other kind of things where Kevin gets very angry, tries to blame it all on his father, and goes back to the office and starts puffing and inhaling more laughing gas. He just had to do that. So he ends up getting arrested, but I don't really know how he got arrested. It kind of just happens. It's like a weird sequence of events where he gets arrested and then he has to deal with all of his psychiatric struggles in what I thought was a psychiatric hospital, but it's actually a prison, and it's all just kind of all over the place. The plot is all over the place. I mean, it's clearly very low budget. It's basically the equivalent of a Newgrounds show, but still, it's very interesting. So we have all these prison shenanigans that aren't the most interesting. It focuses on how Kevin becomes, like, the main distributor of cigarettes there, and then Slappy becomes in charge of all the prisoners, and he wants a bunch of things for all of them, and the entire joke is him sitting there like, alright guys, I'm talking 10 conjugal visits, yes, oh, we're gonna be getting it every single day, oh, and I'm talking 16 new channels for the TV, oh, yeah, and that's pretty much the entire joke, and it's not that funny, but oh well, you know, when you're trying to do a shock humor show, you can't land with everything, and that's fine, because they did land with the next scene, which I thought was sad, but also a little bit funny. Like, I can't even lie, they've been talking about this guy, Pete, for so long. Where did Pete come from? I have no fucking idea. I've never heard of this Pete man before. That's why the pacing of the show makes sense. But all of a sudden, I'm just ringing in my ears with the narrator being like, oh, and then Pete beat him up. Oh, and then Pete got too dirty with it. Oh, and then Pete needed to be hosed off. And I'm like, who is this Pete guy? And when I finally get to see him, he's in a padded cell because he's gone insane, and he's just running around and just hearing the narrator say, oh, but Pete will be spending a lot of time in here, because he thinks he's a border collie herding all of the sheep.
But Pete was still in the psychiatric ward for holding down the guard Kevin attacked, and because he thought he was a border collie and kept trying to herd the other prisoners like sheep.
I thought that was funny. It was just so random. It's such a random, like, assortment of nonsense that it kind of works in a sense, but it overall is just very, very weird stuff. So we then cut to Kevin just being at home because all of a sudden, I guess he's psychiatrically healed, even though he's a bit of a freak, especially with what happens next. And his father's there. And his father's all like, all right, listen, my boy, I don't want you to turn into one of them there homosexuals, so we're gonna go on a hunting trip. And then he just pulls out a semi-automatic rifle and starts spam shooting it and creates a heart, and it spells the initials of him and his wife's anniversary. And I was like, okay. And then his wife comes over here, and she's just like a fucking whale, and literally sounds like Starla from Regular Show, and she's like, oh, Marv, oh, you remembered, oh. And they start doing the nasty with Kevin just sitting there like, yeah.
Keep it to Christ down. Oh, Jesus, Boise. You remembered our effing anniversary.
Yep, so, That was interesting. Again, the show really is just all over the place. It's, again, just one of those shows where it just keeps throwing things at you, hoping to make you laugh. And some of it does make me laugh, and some of it I'm just kind of whatever. Like, all of the jokes that are coming up. If you were to tell me that this entire sequence was just to make fun of Americans, I would completely believe you, and I wouldn't really complain, because you immediately have his father, Kevin, and two of his friends all driving in a truck, and it just feels like typical redneck behavior. They're just sitting there like, God damn it, they took our gerbs, they took our gerbs. What are we supposed to do without our gerbs? That's why I've been out of the gerb for 10 years. How am I supposed to find a gerb? And then, like, the second they're driving and they actually have an opportunity to find a job, like they're talking about, like, actual jobs they could have, they're like, well, if we did that, then we'd have to work, and we don't want to do that. We can't possibly have a job. That's basically all of the adults in this situation. That's their entire personality. They will do anything to avoid work, but complain about the prospect of potentially having work. You know, they want jobs, but the second they can have a job, it's too much. So it's basically just a bunch of jokes about shooting guns everywhere. They just shoot lots of guns and drink a lot of beer. And that's, you know, entirely what I imagine the rest of the world thinks about America. Yeah, they sit there and eat their hamburgers, they drink beer, and they fire assault rifles into schools. Oh, that's them. And, you know, seeing scenes like this, I wouldn't blame them. But I did look up this show, and it does take place in Ontario, Canada. And I really thought that they were Americans for a second. I genuinely thought that they lived pretty much where I live. It's what I thought. So they're doing that for a while. They're shooting the guns, and eventually Kevin is left alone because they abandon him in the middle of the woods because they want to go and see some prostitutes. Okay. So Kevin, you know, being in his right of mind, he thinks one thing and one thing only. What can I possibly do to pass the time? I'm going to sneak into a safari, like a wildlife reserve area, and I'm going to kill a ostrich. And he shoots an ostrich 47 times and kills it.
Only 47 shots. Kevin figured he could have it stuffed and give it to his dad for Father's Day.
Okay. These are the types of jokes where I'm like questioning my reality. Because you have some good jokes, like Kevin breaking into a dentist office to inhale lots of laughing gas. Like, that's pretty random. And then just killing an ostrich for no reason, you know? That's kind of where I'm like, okay. So Kevin goes to his therapist, and his therapist thinks this is a revelation because he apparently killed the ostrich for his family. I don't know. I don't really care. So then we get Kevin back in prison, and he's watching a prison movie, which is like a pornographic film. And I just had to sit there, like, in awe, like, just staring at the screen, like, it's just so odd how long they went with this, with all the characters in the pornographic film just being like, ugh. You know what? It's hot in here. Oh, it's too hot to be doing my taxes. I better take off my clothes.
I think I will take my shirt off also.
We are all hot. It is also very hard work.
That's basically what they do for a solid 2 minutes, just 4 different characters, just going, oh, it's so hot in here, oh, let me put it inside you to get it to cool down, oh. And yeah, that's great, I guess. Again, the flow of this episode is just all over the place. It's everywhere. And then Kevin, all of a sudden, he's back in school, so he's in prison, in school, doing all this stuff, and apparently he has a big show and tell. It's very important to him. It's going to be very good. He wants to make sure that it goes right. He is the last person to do show and tell. The girl before him literally brought the Pope, everybody you could imagine, and she is the talk of the town, the cream of the corn. And so, what would you do? You know? If you had a really big show and tell coming up, what would you do to get ready? Would you practice your lines, study to make sure that everything's going to be good, maybe give the performance in front of your parents? You want to make sure that this is going to go so well so that you could pass the 5th grade. Well, Kevin, being his natural self, he decides to down 2 bottles of cough syrup, sipping on that walk to get ready. And he does that. He hobbles his way up to the front, and he decides to just start waving his arms frantically and saying, "Here is the duck that lives inside of my mind." Oh, Kevin, they're not gonna like that. So they all laugh at him. He gets sent away to psychiatric help, and he breaks out to slash the teacher's tires, and that's literally the entire episode. I feel like I genuinely was describing to you a 20-part YouTube miniseries because of how much random shit is just stuffed into this episode. There is so much random nonsense, and only about 25% of it is actually funny. Like, the other 75% I could do without. Like, if it was just a short story about Kevin breaking into the dentist's office and that was where it ended, I probably would have liked it a lot more. But then you have all these shenanigans of them going hunting, the show and tell thing, which I honestly just felt bad for the kid. I mean, it's literally just, look at this kid, he's mentally ill. That's funny. Like, that's it. That's all there is to it. And I just didn't like it that he goes and kills an ostrich. I don't know. It's just kind of all over the place. I think the best part of this series so far, I mean, I've only seen one episode, is the narrator. The narrator describing things that are so, like, silly and out there is a lot of fun. Like, oh, and then Kevin decided to shoot the ostrich 47 times. And then Kevin decided that the best way to handle this, the best way to handle show and tell, was to quickly drink 2 tubs of cough syrup. You know, it's just shit like that that's kind of funny because he's so nonchalant about it when it should be very serious. So I kind of did like that. Everything else was just kind of whatever. Don't really care about it. Could live without. So if I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give it a, you know, 5 out of 10. I give it a 5 out of 10, you know, because it has some things that genuinely work for it and some things that I just wouldn't ever want to come back to. Like, there's no point ever rewatching this. It just feels like very average, but I will say it was entertaining throughout the entire episode, but that doesn't make it necessarily good. Taking a look at a random episode of Kevin Spencer, we have the episode Mauled by a Dog, and I really do feel like the beginning of these episodes are always the most funny. It's like they just save their best jokes for the beginning of the episode to loop you in, and then everything else is just kind of an afterthought in a way. This episode was still decent, though. It had a couple of good jokes. I liked it for the most part. The episode opens with Kevin in the back of a police squad car, and they're like, gee, Kevin, I can't say I've ever seen anybody set fire to an entire parade before, and Kevin's just sitting there like... You know, because he took so much cough syrup, he doesn't even know where he is at this point in the episode. So it makes him reminisce and start thinking about how when the snow melts, he gets to pick up all these beer cans, and they find a dead raccoon, and he puts it on his dad's head, and his dad's like, oh, I'm David, oh, look at me, and then he gets mauled by vultures.
I'm Davy Crockett.
Which I thought was the funniest part of the entire episode, almost. Because right after that, we get described about all of Kevin's pets and how, because he's a sociopath, you know, all these things in his head just tell him to kill the animals that he gets, so he can't usually have them, but he's had plenty before, and his dad just gets fucking mauled by a crocodile as well.
He briefly owned an alligator, but that didn't work out very well either.
Yep, and that's the beginning of the episode there. Everything else is just, you know... It exists, to say the least. I genuinely feel like this was written by a sociopath and they just find all this stuff funny, because the next scene is Kevin getting a cat, and he picks like the worst cat you could possibly get, like a cat that hates every single human. It's gonna scratch you, it's going to crawl up you and just castrate your nutsack while you're sleeping. That is the type of cat that he found. And the cat gets fucking murdered. The cat is sitting in a car, and they start the engine, and the cat gets fried, burnt to shreds, and the cat's dead. And Kevin's like, well, I want a different pet. I want a different pet. I really do. I need it so badly. So they go to the mall, and there's a bunch of shenanigans that happen there. But again, it's just really odd comedy. Like, it's so unbelievably dark, where Kevin's father walks up to this random woman, and the random woman's like, oh, can I help you today, sir? Where you going in the mall? And Kevin's dad's like, oh, well, I can tell you where you're going to be going in 9 months if you keep talking to me. What? What are you gonna do to her? Well, why would you say something like that? Either way, Kevin goes to the pet store, and he can't afford any of the pets. He wants this big snake, so he eventually goes back to his father. And he's like, Dad, I want this snake. So his dad goes and steals all of them. Well, at the same time, the mom, she is going to try and meet this guy named Brock, and he's famous. And so she flashes him with her big old bazongas just hanging out, looking like some cantaloupes that have just been left out in the sun for 3 days. And that wasn't very great. And so he runs away, obviously. And then Kevin ends up getting arrested because his dad stole all the pets. And of course, Kevin's going to get arrested for that. So we just get all these shenanigans with Kevin just going around nonstop, just watching these cops just harass people. And Kevin learns that he wants to be a cop potentially. So he decides he's going to train dogs that are for blind people. And he trains all the dogs to go around and find prostitutes. Yeah, so that happens for a while. It's all entertaining, like, nonetheless. It's just a little bit weird how they decide to showcase a lot of the things in the show. Eventually, he has to give up one of the blind dogs, and this old man shows up and he's like, what kind of dog did you train? What is this? I told him to take me to deposit a letter, and all of a sudden, I had lost my social security check and my virginity. Oh, which, hey, come on, man. Come on, you're telling me 70 years old, blind, you finally got to go in that sweet tunnel and you're gonna complain about it? Kevin helped you. Kevin saved you. He helped you good. But either way, I thought that was hilarious. So, the old man's there, he's arguing, and then the mom decides that she wants to leave the dad for the Brock guy, so she's going to go to his house and like hide in his bushes and try to get him to love her. And at the same time, the cops come to arrest her for harassment. And so Kevin sends the dog and makes the old man look like the old man's trying to like sexually assault the police officer, so the old man gets arrested and the mom gets arrested, and that's the end of the episode. That's all the shenanigans, and who the hell cares? God, this show is all over the place. I do really like the beginning of the episode. Everything else is just kind of whatever. If I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give it a 5 again. I don't know. It's just not really my cup of tea. I would much rather watch any other adult animated show that does like a full linear episode a lot better than this. But those first 2 minutes, pretty solid. Taking a look at one of the worst episodes in the series, we have the episode The Missing Links. And honestly, this episode has much more of a linear plot. It's more of a self-contained, just one-note story than the Life Lessons episode. But that kind of makes it even worse because it really doesn't have a crutch of just shock humor to keep it going. Some of it's a little bit odd, but again, it's the same situation where I liked the first like 5 minutes of it, and then it just got a little bit wonky, a little bit weird, because it's just the equivalent of, oh, look at this fat woman getting naked and just, messing with her lactated boobs. That's literally what happens in the episode, and she's just like cleaning herself, and I don't know why it's happening because it's just so random, but it's like the main crutch of the comedy is the fact that Kevin, his father, and the mom get naked later in the episode, and that's like the main joke. But the beginning of it, I do enjoy. Kevin, he suffered a lot of brain injuries, just so many, caused by extreme stupidity, abuse, all that stuff, and he does not know what to do, and his duck is all like, Kevin, I'm afraid, I'm fading away. His duck is fading out of existence, so Kevin needs to find a way to stop this, and the best way to do that is to go and see a good old-fashioned camel toe. And I'm not talking about a scrunched up vag, I'm talking about going to a bar and getting just drunk. That is what Kevin must do. That is what the duck is ordering. He's saying, Kevin, my boy, if you just go and have a couple beers, I'll be able to stay in your mind, I'll be able to stay healthy, and we can continue being mentally ill together. There's nothing better than that. That's what he's going to try to achieve. So he goes there, and we get to see that his dad is there. And there's also like these two mobsters who are trying to shake the bar owner for some money. And the dad, he doesn't really care about this. He just wants his beer. He gets knocked to the floor. He stands up, and we get one of the weirdest conversations that I've ever heard. He's all like, oh, hello, Mr. Bartender. Can I get some beer, please? And the bartender rightfully asks, well, where's your wife? Because your big wife is always here with you. You're always here to get some drinks together. And he says something along the lines of, she's on the floor, she collapsed. And I'm thinking, did she have a stroke? Is she dying? What's going on here? Like, you're just like, oh, well, my wife is on the floor and she's dying, but oh, sir, I really need a good old-fashioned cold one, please. Just pour me up. And then the wife shows up anyway, hits him over the head with a shovel, and just starts beating him.
And he's a tough old broad.
You damn right I'm tough.
So the wife is returned from her delusional nightmare stroke, and she's like, oh, all right. You know I need a beer, darling. So she starts drinking a lot. And so Kevin shows up and he's also there for a beer. The father gets up and starts attacking his entire family. And then he has a snake in his pants for whatever reason. He just goes to pull out some money and he's like, whoa, a gardener snake. Yeah. Why, you may be asking? I don't know. I don't know anything. The wife, she's on the floor unconscious because she just got mauled by her husband. She opens her eyes and the husband has the snake in front of her and she's like, oh wow, a wonderful looking gardener snake. Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. And then she sees her husband and says, an unwashed man, and starts beating him up.
Oh, hello, snake. It's a fat, ugly, unwashed man!
So, nothing like some good old-fashioned domestic abuse to start off this episode. I actually thought it was kind of funny because they just continuously keep beating each other while Kevin is just trying to, like, understand and live his life because he's having delusions and his entire eyes are, like, shaking this entire episode. He's freaking out a little bit. So then, the duck inside of his head, instead of getting a beer, he's like, there's only one thing you could possibly do, Kevin. You should abuse your unconscious father. So he starts beating his father and he tries to take money from him so that he could get a beer, and that's some great stuff. So, yeah. They all start drinking a little bit. The father is left there unconscious, and this gives the bartender a bright idea to use the father's literal corpse as a just like stand-in for him while the mobsters come to get their money later tonight. At the same time, Kevin wanders into the woods and his mom also wanders into the woods, and we get a brilliant scene in which the mother walks up to a lake and goes, "Ew, what a beautiful bathtub!" Rips off all her clothes and gets in there, and that's the entire joke for like another 5 minutes. Anytime we see her, she's just in the bath, just like rubbing up, and I can't show you any of those scenes because, you know, her just like flopped over, like just drooping down boobs that go all the way down to her belly button are just hanging out there, so I can't show you any of that, but that's pretty much the next like 3 scenes. She's just sitting there bathing, so that's great. And then Kevin, he's getting attacked by a random man who claims that Kevin stole his jacket. And, you know, what's the right thing? You know, somebody steals your jacket, what's the best way to pay them back? Especially when it's clear that this man is probably an adult. You know, he's probably way older than Kevin, at least he appears to be. So he catches Kevin, and instead of just taking his jacket back, maybe calling the police, maybe getting something real done, he's like, I'm gonna undress you. So Kevin is now naked in the wilderness as well, and Kevin's dad starts getting beat by the mobsters because he's a stand-in, starts getting beat, he's almost dead, and then the mobsters leave thinking they killed him, and so the bartender just stomps on his head repeatedly, like 10, 20, 30 times, and then dumps his body into the woods with the rest of the family. Yeah, it's stuff like that you never really expect where an episode is going to go. And so now they're all just naked in the woods, doing naked things together, walking around naked, doing things naked, trying to be naked. And so everybody looks at this family that is clearly just a bunch of naked Neanderthals, and they must assume that it's the missing link. So we get an entire 2-minute sequence where science is arguing against religion because none of this makes sense, none of this could be possible. And then a southern man, he sees the money prospects of all of this, and so he decides to catch them all, and he decides to put them in a cage outside of his gas station, and that's literally how the episode ends. They're just in a cage, and that's it. They're the missing links. And I don't know why I watched this. It was just really pointless overall. I don't know. I didn't enjoy like the last 15 minutes of it. Those first 5 minutes where it was just domestic family abuse, that was great. That was funny. There was something there, you know? If they just had them fight for the entire episode, that would have been fine. But I don't know, it was just a lot of naked equals funny towards the end there, and I didn't really find any of it that entertaining. At least, I don't know, I just didn't think it was that good. There wasn't a whole lot to cling on to. It was really just them getting naked. Kevin is naked eating a Frisbee at one point, and that's supposed to be really funny. I don't know, just wasn't overall that good. So if I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give this one a 3 out of 10. Not a whole lot to cling on to there. So So there you have it. That's me taking a look at 3 episodes of Kevin Spencer. Honestly, the show is fine. Nothing special. I feel like it's just because of all the other adult animated shows that I've seen that I like a lot more, that this one doesn't hit very hard. I really like South Park. I really like Boondocks. I would even take Family Guy over this. So honestly, it's just kind of like oversaturated dark humor nonsense that just doesn't feel that good. None of the jokes are timed very well. The episode's plot lines are all over the place. But if I was watching this, 10 years ago, I'd probably be having a ball. But, when you're just watching this and it's just like dark humor, like, oh, there's a cat dying. Oh, this woman's showing her elongated boobs. It's just not that good. Some of it's okay. Some of it's pretty awful. It's just overall a decently average show. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe. Lots of good content on the way, daily content. I took one day off, but we're gonna go right back to that daily sweet succulent content, so stay tuned. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.